What's up, everybody? Bootsy Greenwood here, and I'm coming to you from the Gulf Coast. I thought I would try something a little bit different today, where we could watch a sunset together. And I'll talk to you a little bit about the book Reality Transurfing by Vadim Zeland. I want to see if I can, just off the top of my head, give you guys a bit of a rundown, give you an overview of what this book is, what it's about, and what the principles are in the book while we watch the sunset together. I thought that might be cool. So let's give it a shot. Let's see how this goes. And before we do that, I just want to let you guys know, I do have a school group that's open. It's absolutely free to join. If you're interested in going deeper into these principles, that is the spot. I've got a lot of free content, a lot of free courses in there. You can go ahead, get your beak wet, start diving deep into these principles. And for now, I want to just go as much as I can in depth and in detail, but give you an overview of the model from beginning to close to the end, okay? I'm gonna give you guys the sauce. I'm gonna do the 60-minute waltz in 20 seconds or whatever, right? Like, this is a 25-hour book. I'm gonna try and give you guys everything that I can give you, what I think is the most important, literally right off the top of my dome here, to see if we can't explain these concepts, this model, this framework, this map, and see if you can start implementing some of these ideas and start seeing some of these principles happening right in front of your eyes. This book illuminated so much for me. And if I had to take this book and put it into one statement, what it does, it's like reality transurfing is lucid dreaming in real life. So that is essentially the magic that we're working with here. And I can't think of anything that would be more magical than that. If you don't know what lucid dreaming is, definitely look it up. It's when you become aware in your dream. It's when you all of a sudden realize, and it kicks on for you, oh my God, I'm dreaming, and then you can do whatever you want through what Vadim calls the power of intention. And now the reason why we're using that as a metaphor is because what happens when you're dreaming can also be leveraged and used in the physical world, okay? As above, so below, as they say in the Hermetic, as within, so without. So whatever it is that we see in the metaphysical world, we can actually adapt and apply that to the physical real world. So that's the whole point. The whole point is to basically be able to do what you want, to be able to pursue your goal and to lucid dream in real life. Now, what it looks like might be a little bit different than what comes to mind. So let's talk a little bit about this, and I'm going to go through the beginning of all of the concepts and give you a general idea on the concepts. So the very first concept in the book is the idea of choice. The idea isn't that you manifest anything. It's that you choose your reality from all of the options that exist. So because of this, Vadim introduces infinity and reminds us that infinity is a real thing. It's not just a math idea to make you feel silly or to confuse you. It is a legitimate reality. And basically what he says is that there's a grid of infinite options. So if you just think of a piece of graph paper that just goes on in every direction forever, then there's literally every single option on that menu that could ever happen. Things that are beyond your wildest imagination exist there. All of the dream space is that map. All of the mental world is that map, is that graph paper of infinite options. And so because there is something of infinity, that means everything already exists already. It's already there, okay? This was probably one of the biggest light bulb moments for me when I first started reading the book, because I was like, oh my God, like, I don't have to become some other version of myself. That version of myself that I would like to pick already exists in the menu of infinite options, okay? And there are parameters to this. It's not like you can be the king of Prussia. Prussia doesn't exist anymore. But you can navigate to a more favorable timeline, a more favorable lifeline, a more favorable version of who you are. That's the first concept in the book. And this is materialization. It's not manifestation. It's creating or choosing or pulling or selecting what it is that we want to see from that infinite space or store archive that Vadim calls the space of variations, and pulling that into physical reality. And so the rest of the book goes to, how do we do this? How do we choose from that infinite space of options? and implement what it is that we truly want to see in the world. In order to be able to do that, we need to understand the second concept in the book, and that really has to do with the barriers to our choosing. What Vadim calls these barriers are pendulums. And so an easy way to kind of like understand the idea of pendulums is he calls them energetic informational structures. So basically, the way that energy works in our world is that it kind of clusters and it kind of forms together and it sort of congeals in a certain movement. And that is what a pendulum is. It's an energetic informational structure. It's an entity. It's a conglomerate of ideas that are basically the same. It's a culture. It's something to conform to. It's the It's the organizing principle of nature. It's how beehives work. It's how ant colonies work. It's how a school of fish moves in nature. And so if we start to understand this concept that energy itself collects and moves, then we can start to see what energetic entities that we're serving and giving over our identity and our power to. If we're, let's say, part of a sports team, a political party, we're part of some larger structure, and we begin to identify with that, well, then we begin to give our energy over to that structure, and that structure then basically begins to rule or dictate our lives. So if that's Instagram, if that's trying to get clout, if that's being the best, baseball player or whatever that is a pendulum that we are attuned to, we become an adherent of, and then we start to embody whatever it is that entity wills for us. We start beginning to give ourselves over to that and basically working on its behalf. We start doing the devil's work, so to speak. We start losing our identity more and more and more as a result of identifying with something that is a larger, basically, structure, an ideology, a cult, whatever you want to call it. And we begin to basically sell ourselves out. We get pimped by the pendulums. The pendulums are the things that are pulling our strings and basically making us go down a predetermined path until we want to learn to disengage and disentangle from those pendulums, which are generally embedded in us with guilt, duty, or obligation, and keep us conforming to societal norms or whatever the group mind is basically thrusting upon us, that's pushing us to do, okay? That's the second principle. It's a very powerful principle, and when you start to see this idea of energetic informational structures around you, it is impossible to unsee it. But later in the book, we're going to talk about how to really disentangle ourselves from these. It's not something to be scared of. It's something to actually integrate and have as a part of your life that you've basically transcended. You can still become part of a group. You can still be part of these formations, but you keep your energy as you rent yourself out and you're not engaging directly with that structure. It's not dictating to you exactly what to do. You're not its bitch, right? You're not the one being pimped. You're actually learning how to leverage these structures. You've transcended them. And then that gives you the ability to walk on your own path to the goal that's true, authentic, and right for you. And that is the main aim. And the reason why we want to learn to lucid dream in reality is in order that we can pursue our own true goal. That is true for us. That is something that is very special, unique, that you can give the world. The next concept in the book has to do with leveraging winds. It's called the wave of fortune. And what this chapter teaches us is that our thoughts always come back to us like a boomerang. At every point, we're broadcasting things out into the mirror of physical reality from the mental space, from the space of alternatives. And whatever is being reflected out or projected out is going to be reflected back to us from the world. So whatever it is that we are broadcasting to the universe hears us and it reflects that back to us absolutely perfectly in every case. So if we understand these principles and concepts, we can actually use them. They're happening regardless, no matter what. These natural laws, these principles are happening in reality, whether we're aware of them or not. It doesn't really matter if we're aware. We're going to be either used by these laws and principles or we're going to use them for our advantage. And what the wave of fortune teaches us is exactly how to use them for our advantage, for our good. We learn to stack wins. We learn to choose a positive script from the infinite store of archives in that space of variation. So we begin to see the win, and we appreciate that win, and then we learn to choose up to the next win, up to the next win, up to the next win. Our thoughts are coming back to us like a boomerang. So every single time we have a success, every single time that we take an action and we're proud of that, that is a win to celebrate. And that is us moving toward our goal. And Vadim says in the book that when we identify our true goal, when we understand what that is, it turns our life into a celebration. That's been my experience. The more I pursue my own path and move down it, the more my life is just filled with amazing experiences, good times, and unforeseen opportunities come around every turn as a result of being on that path, as a result of choosing the wins consciously up that ladder of the wave of fortune. The next principle in the book is called balance. Balance is a very powerful idea. Vadim says it's the primary law of the universe, and it's the reason why things are organized the way that they are. It's also the reason why we stay stuck at a certain level in our development, is because we have created a balance point, and we are going to stay true to that. That's where our comfort zone is, and our mind is always trying to survive. It's not really always looking for the positive. So we have to trick our brain to begin to lean into and understand the wave of fortune so that we can use that principle and those ideas to push ourselves forward and begin to elevate that balance point up and up and up and up. So we want to elevate that balance point so we don't stay on the same lifeline. We want to move up to the next highest, to the next highest, to the next highest, and then continually move on that upward spiral, that wave of fortune. And we do that by choosing and understanding the principle of balance. It's the primary law of the universe. These waves go in, these waves come, or they go in and out. They come in, they go out, they egress and ingress, okay? So they're going in and out. And the same thing is true with energy, right? It's moving constantly back and forth, always settling. With a lot of people that talk about success and self-help, they often leave out the part about the emotional aspect of success. So many people will tell you the logic, like this happens because of this, and happens because of that, and there's this linear progression. The truth of it is, though, the world is not linear. Reality doesn't move or flow like that. Reality moves in a very unpredictable way. These things materialize through these principles, and then we begin to experience them in the world, but not in a direct, this causes this to happen, and then this happened, and then this thing will happen. It's not like that. Things just start to happen in the way of, it's like the least amount of effort for the universe, right? It's not what makes the most sense to the logical mind. It's how does the universe move? Water is always going to find the path of least resistance. It's always going to find and move its way downhill. That's just what's going to happen. That's how nature works. And what we're doing is applying these natural laws to our lives in this physical reality. So in balance, these emotional aspects, this idea that when we generate a bunch of desire for something, whenever we're actively wanting, hoping, wishing, or desiring for something, we're actually creating a ton of resistance in the form of what Vadim calls importance. And that importance creates what he calls excess potential. And that excess potential is basically pushing our goals further and further away from us and not closer and closer toward us. So the desire, he says that we do not get what we want. We do not get what we wish for. We do not get what we hope for. We get what we intend. So intention is that power that we're learning to use, that lucid dreaming in real life power called intention. That's what we're learning to use in real life. That's what we want to begin to implement. And when we understand that our dreams don't come true, hopes, wishes, desires don't really do anything. It's kind of like a mental masturbation. It's just spinning our wheels. So when we realize that and start to understand that, then we can really start to see this principle in action, the principle of balance. The more we want something, the more we chase something, the faster it runs away. That's just how it works. If you start chasing me, I'm not going to stand here. I'm not just going to open up my arms and like give you a warm embrace, right? Like that's how the universe works as well. And there's an emotional component to this. There's an emotional component to success. and this idea of importance, or what in Buddhism they would call attachment, that we're so attached to the outcome, we've got so much stress, we're trying to control things out here in the physical world, as opposed to broadcasting to the mirror what we want to see and then getting the reflection. So balance is the primary law of the universe. It is keeping things organized. It is keeping things as they are in like a system. If there was no balance, there would be basically no parameters. There would be no limits. There would be no boundaries. So that's what creates all of the different physical objects, right? Like, and all of the different energies. Balance is constantly keeping them moving toward a center point of zero. And anytime we do something that is outside of zero, which you could call zero unconditional love, there's a differential that is being created because we're out of alignment with that zero. So there's a distortion in the reality that we're broadcasting to the mirror. And because of that, reality will snap back and it will balance itself out. So everything we desire, everything we hope for, everything we wish for, everything we dream for, it doesn't really get us to where we want to go. It doesn't get us to the promised land. What we want to do is have a very specific goal and use intention in order to move to that goal. The next idea in the book is the induced transition, or the induced shift. And this is basically the same exact idea as the wave of fortune, that we can choose up, 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 up. We can also do the same thing and see a downward spiral. Many people have experienced a downward spiral. We've seen it many times, and it's even easier to create one of those than it is to create the wave of fortune. And the reason why is because I mentioned previously, we're wired for survival. So our brain is constantly looking for threats. It's constantly looking for things that are wrong and that could potentially hurt or harm us or put us back. And it's not consciously looking for positive wins. It's not consciously looking for the good things that happen. We have to actively use our will and our choice in order to highlight and notice the positive things that are happening. So we want to basically use our brain and rewire our brain to focus on the positive things that happen, creating that upward spiral and that wave of fortune. If we just naturally let our brain do what it does because it's really good at survival, it will continue to focus on the negative. It's so true. There's even like a scientific experiment where if you look for, or if you find $100 on the ground versus if you lose $100, your brain registers 100% more emotional impact on losing the $100 than it does on finding the $100. So we have to actively and consciously put the emphasis on the positive things that we see in reality. That's what we have to do. The next concept is the alternatives flow. And this particular concept, this chapter, it illustrates and demonstrates how reality materializes from an infinite space of options in the metaphysical dream space or space of variations into the physical world that we see around us. So you can think of like a toothpaste tube that has a ton of different options in there. And the one that we squeeze out, that's the one physical reality that kind of comes out. So we've got this flow of options, this infinite amount of options that can happen. And based on our choice and how we interact with our environment, based on our emotional state and how we choose, we're actively helping the universe we're guiding it and creating it based on our choice, what the alternatives flow is going to materialize. What is going to be created in physical reality, we will see based on our choice. So it's no longer like some random thing. Instead, it's something that is consciously chosen that begins to come into the material world. And the way that we can do that is we can begin to learn to focus and shift our focus and watch for signs, signals, and ways basically that reality is communicating with us. And it will do that through many different forms. It might be certain numbers that you see. It might be a certain color car that you see. It might be something that you overheard from someone else randomly at a lunch meeting or something like that. You just heard it. It just hit you. You just knew it was a sign from the universe to say, hey, there's a door that's open here, walk through it. And so that's how the alternatives flow, is this amazing amount of information. And based on how we interact with that information, based on the moves, actions, decisions that we make, we are materializing reality as a result of using conscious choice within that alternative's flow. So when we see a door open, when we see all of a sudden a signal or a sign that kind of keys us in, hey, move in this direction, right? Like we're moving through and we see an opportunity, boom, we harness the opportunity, we take action on that opportunity, and then we continue to move through the alternatives flow. And then that toothpaste tube is like, okay, this thing's materialized. Okay, this thing's materialized. Okay, this thing's materialized, and all the way through. The next concept in the book is called intention, which I briefly touched upon. Again, Vadim says our dreams don't come true. What we wish for, what we hope for, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is what we intend for. So what is intention? Intention is when your heart and your mind align. It's when your heart and your mind, which are the two parts of you, the heart is the part of you that comes into this world that is completely unique. It has its own personality. It has its own expression, its own true essence. And then the mind is that logical part of ourselves that is a blank sheet. It can conform to any culture. It can learn any language. It can create many, many things out of what has already been formed, but it, generally speaking, doesn't create anything new. Everything new comes from the heart that is connected to the space of alternatives to infinity. Meanwhile, the mind, it is connected here to the physical reality containing the ego, and it's basically a blank slate that we can train, but that more often than not, because of pendulums and because of the effect of groupthink and societal norms and other clubs, formations, and energies, our mind starts to conform to those, and it puts our heart very often in a limited box, thinking that, oh, well, only this is possible or only that is possible. And what we want to be able to do is align our heart and mind. What happens in a lucid dream is that our heart in a dream is going through the infinite alternative space. It's a crazy soul having a kinky, wild ride through the metaphysical experience, right? It's like, I want to try this. I want to do that. I want to know what this feels like. And that's what it does. And when our mind comes online and becomes awake in the dream, then all of a sudden they're operating in alignment, and we can do literally whatever we want to do in that dream. That's when intention is formed. It's formed through authentic connection between the heart and mind. This is true magic. It's where true power and empowerment comes from. That's what we want to tap into. That's what we want to put in front of us and use in order to accomplish and achieve our goals. That's intention. Now, the next idea in the book is the idea of heart and mind, which I generally gave a gist of, right? Like this heart and this mind, these are the two elements that we are. We have the feminine heart, which is connected to all of infinity. We have the masculine mind, which is connected to the physical world. What we want to do is line these things up and work and live in an authentic way where we're literally being the truest version of ourselves. Now, for me, I never knew that it was possible for these two elements to align. I always thought you had to either be a broke creative or you had to just join the corporate, world and be a logical worker bee. But in reality, what you can have is both of those things. You can have the ability to enjoy your life and to go for what it is that you really want. And what happens when those two elements align is the heart sings and the mind rubs its hands with glee. That's what we want, is a specific aligned experience, like a true to form experience on who we are, how we engage in the world. And the way that we can do that, when we follow our true goal, we're going to do something that helps us and others. That's a true win-win-win. That's what we're going for. And that's the idea of intention. That pure intention is good for you, it's good for the people around you, and it's good for the world at large. That's really when you're operating in your true power. You're doing something that benefits you, that benefits the world, and you're having a good time doing it because you're moving along toward your goal. The next concept, goals and doors. Goals and doors. This idea basically says, again, when you move toward your goal, your true goal, the world opens up and warms you with its embrace. When you open up to your true goal, you begin to live your life as a celebration because you're on the path to what it is that you truly, truly want to experience, what you want to give, and what the world needs. So you're giving your gift, you're having fun doing it, you're benefiting from it, and so is everyone else. That's real intention. That's the power of what Vadim calls outer intention. So there are two types: inner intention, which is like basically trying to control the world externally, and then there's outer intention, and that is when the world just so happens that. It starts to align and it starts to give us options. It just so happens that this specific door opens, and then that's the alternative flow happening. You step into that opportunity, you step right through that gateway, and then all of a sudden, bam, you've crystallized a new reality, and that's what's happening. The next concept in the book is something called slides. Slides, like a projector film slide. A projector film slide is basically your view of the world. The idea of slides is like, this is your view of the world, this is kind of what you see, and then through what you see and how you visualize the world, you're projecting energy through that, and that slide, if there's distortions in it, then that's broadcasting out to the mirror of the universe, and it will be reflected back to you, and then you'll start to see that in real time, in real life. So these slides are ways to compose an idea. It's a way to see our goal. It's a way to create anchors and emotional experiences that we want to see fulfilled in the real world. So we would broadcast an idea through this slide out into the universe, and then from there begin to move consciously to that ultimate goal and keying off the alternatives flow, walking through whatever doors and opportunities that open up and arise themselves that we can hop through, right? We're like, hey, I see a way to this next thing. So then we begin to walk through that door. So the last concept that I want to talk about in this video is the concept of energy. It's something that people talk about. Oh, you have such a good energy. What a good vibe, bro. You got a great energy, man. And what the hell are we even talking about when it comes to this? Energy, right? But we understand from the earlier parts of the book that Vadim is illustrating to us the concepts of pendulums and how energy is formed and how it works, how it moves. It's constantly moving. And so what we want to do is we want to keep and retain as much of our energy as possible so that we're not giving our energy over to pendulums. We're giving our energy over to our own authentic self. And the more in alignment we are, the more in our truth that we are, the more energy we keep and the more energy can flow through us. Everything truly is energy at a deep level, but when we're unable to see it for what it is, when we start to play into these other programs, paradigms, and pendulums, these other people's agendas, then all of a sudden we start to be stripped of the energy that we do have to create what it is that we want to see in the world. What we want to learn how to do is focus our energy, to feel our energy, and to get ourselves as much energy as possible, because the more energy that we have, which there's an infinite amount of energy, but we want to be able to channel as much as possible through our body so that we can reach our goal. Okay, so my video card did run out during that shoot right at the last minute. And I was just about to say at the end of the video that I really appreciate you taking the time for watching the sunset with me. I really appreciate you doing this and seeing the sky as it is in one specific moment, as it will never, ever look the same ever again. It's a true testament of infinity that we can literally see with our eyes. The sunset's never the same. The sky never looks the same. It's always, always, always different. It's a canvas that's always changing, and we can see that evidenced if we just look up. It's a beautiful thing. And yeah, I just really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me, watch a sunset together, and I hope that you've enjoyed the video. If you have, and these principles are something that you want to dive a little bit deeper into, then that's great. I have a school group. You can click the link below this video description. If it's not for you, that's cool too. No worries at all. It's not for everybody. But for those of us who resonate with the system, we feel like it's a good map. It's a good way to start to understand some of the principles that people talk about in spirituality. And for some of us, they really hit home. So if that's you, I hope to hang out with you. I hope to get to kick it with you and do a live call and get to know you. So yeah, thanks so much again for watching this video. Much love, many blessings to you, and we will see you on the next one.